The humiliation began before Isadora Lewis even stepped off the plane. Lauren Vale's mocking laughter echoed through the phone line as Isadora stood frozen in Houston's international terminal, clutching a crumpled invitation she'd found tucked inside her last paycheck. "You actually thought this was real?" Lauren's voice dripped with cruelty. "It's a joke, Isadora. A parade of pretty girls for some bored sheik. But hey, maybe you'll catch his eye if you clean his toilets well enough." The call ended. Isadora stood there, 27 years old, with bleach-worn hands and a heart that refused to stop believing in second chances. The invitation promised a first aid certification program at Al-Qadim's Royal Hospital, a chance to finally study nursing, a way out for Luke and Marina, her younger siblings who still depended on her for everything since their mother died. She looked down at the ticket, prepaid, non-refundable. Behind her, a family laughed together, pulling designer luggage toward their gate. Isadora's single duffel bag felt heavier than it should. She boarded anyway. Al-Qadim hit her like a fever dream. Golden spires pierced the sky. Heat shimmered off marble courtyards wide enough to hold her entire Houston neighborhood. The palace rose like something from a story she'd never been allowed to read. Isadora arrived with 19 other women. They wore silk and confidence. She wore a thrift store blouse and glasses held together with tape. When the palace aide called roll, several women snickered at her name. One whispered loud enough for everyone to hear. "Did they run out of real candidates?" Isadora's cheeks burned, but she didn't look away. Then he walked in. Sheikh Malik al-Zahir moved through the hall like water through stone, silent, inevitable, impossible to ignore. His eyes scanned the lineup with practiced indifference until Isadora, adjusting her glasses nervously, tripped over her own feet. Her glasses clattered to the marble floor. The room went silent. Malik watched the woman fall, and something unexpected happened. He laughed. Not the polite, controlled chuckle he'd perfected for diplomatic dinners. A real laugh, the kind that broke protocol and made his advisors shift uncomfortably. He crossed the hall in 3 strides and extended his hand. "Practiced perfection tires me," he said quietly, pulling her to her feet. His fingers were warm against her palm. "What's your name?" "Isadora Lewis." Her voice shook slightly. "I'm here for the nursing program." "There is no nursing program." The words landed like stones. Around them, the other candidates watched with cruel satisfaction. Isadora pulled her hand back. "Then what is this?" "An alliance parade." Malik's expression hardened. "Tradition disguised as opportunity. I'm sorry you were misled." Something in his tone suggested he meant it, which somehow made it worse. Isadora felt the room closing in, 20 pairs of eyes watching her unravel. Lauren's laughter still ringing in her ears. The money she'd spent on a decent dress for nothing. She bent down, retrieved her glasses, and stood with as much dignity as she could gather. "Thank you for your honesty, Your Highness." She turned to leave. "Wait." Malik's voice stopped her at the doorway. When she looked back, his expression had shifted into something thoughtful, almost curious. "The program may not exist yet," he said slowly, "but perhaps it should. You came here expecting to learn something. Stay, all of you. For 2 weeks, my medical staff will provide emergency first aid training. Those who complete it will receive certification recognized throughout the Gulf states." The room erupted in whispers. Isadora stared at him, unsure whether to feel grateful or patronized. "Why?" she asked. Malik's eyes held hers for a long moment. "Because you asked a better question than anyone else here. You didn't ask how to impress me. You asked what this was." That night, Isadora lay in her assigned room, a space more luxurious than anywhere she'd ever slept, and cried. Not from sadness, but from the unbearable weight of almost having hope. Training began at dawn. The other women treated the first aid program like an inconvenience between social opportunities. They braided their hair perfectly, wore jewelry to hands-on drills, and complained about bandage techniques ruining their manicures. Isadora absorbed every word like water in drought. She practiced chest compressions until her arms ached, memorized pressure points, asked questions that made the instructors pause and reconsider their answers. By the third day, the lead physician, Dr. Amira, was pulling her aside to show her advanced techniques not covered in the basic curriculum. "You have instinct," Amira said. "That's rarer than skill." Isadora didn't mention that instinct came from watching her mother die slowly. From holding Luke through asthma attacks in apartments where she couldn't afford the ER, from learning that being poor meant becoming your own first responder. Malik watched from a distance. He appeared during drills, supposedly observing all candidates equally, but his gaze kept returning to the woman with taped glasses who tied tourniquets like her life depended on it. While others giggled through demonstrations, Isadora's face held the focused intensity of someone who knew this knowledge could mean survival. One afternoon, he found her alone in the palace gardens, practicing knot techniques on a borrowed rope. "You don't stop." Isadora looked up, startled. "I can't afford to." "What do you mean?" She hesitated, then decided honesty was simpler than pretense. "Back home, I have a brother with asthma and a sister in school. This certification could get me hired at a clinic that pays enough for both. So no, I don't stop." Malik sat down on the bench across from her. It was deeply improper, a sheikh sharing space with a foreign woman unchaperoned, but he seemed unconcerned with propriety. "Tell me about them, your family." And somehow she did. She told him about Luke's dreams of becoming an engineer, about Marina's obsession with library books, about the month they lived on rice and eggs so Marina could go on her first school field trip. Malik listened with an attention that felt almost physical. The accusation came on the 8th night. Isadora woke to palace guards surrounding her bed, their faces hard and unforgiving. "You're to come with us." Her stomach dropped. "What's happening?" "You'll find out." They led her to the main hall where Malik stood beside his head of security. On the table between them lay a diamond bracelet worth more than Isadora would earn in 10 years. "This was found under your mattress," the security chief announced. "It belongs to the Sultan's collection." The room spun. I would never." Isadora's voice cracked. Around her, candidates whispered behind cupped hands. This was entertainment. A housekeeper caught stealing. How predictable. Malik's expression was unreadable. "Is it yours?" "No." Isadora forced herself to meet his eyes. "I don't know how it got there." "Convenient," one of the advisors muttered. "Search her belongings," another demanded. They did. Every item she owned laid bare. Her worn clothes, her brother's goodbye letter, the nursing textbook she'd purchased, used, and read until the spine cracked. Nothing else was found. But absence of evidence wasn't proof of innocence. "Perhaps she already sold the other pieces," someone suggested. The crowd murmured agreement. Isadora felt herself breaking. Not from the accusation, she'd survived worse humiliations, but from the crushing realization that it didn't matter. Truth was a luxury for people who could afford belief. "This is ridiculous." Malik's voice cut through the noise. "The security footage. Pull it, now." His staff exchanged nervous glances. "Your Highness, the system has been malfunctioning. How convenient." Malik's tone turned cold. "Then we review the duty logs. Every person who had access to the sleeping quarters in the past 48 hours. Every single name. That would include royal family members," an advisor warned carefully. "Then include them." The silence was absolute. Isadora watched Malik's jaw tighten, watched him cross a line that would have consequences far beyond her fate. The investigation took 3 hours. When it concluded, Malik's expression was fury barely contained. The bracelet had been planted by a candidate named Victoria, daughter of a French diplomat hoping to secure an alliance through marriage. The malfunction in the security system had been deliberate, paid for with her family's influence. Victoria was removed immediately. Her diplomatic immunity prevented arrest, but the scandal ensured she'd never approach the royal family again. Malik made the announcement himself, in front of every candidate, every staff member, every person who'd watched Isadora be accused. "Miss Lewis is cleared of all charges. Anyone who suggests otherwise will answer to me personally." Then he turned and walked out, leaving Isadora standing in the center of the hall, vindicated but hollowed out. Amira found her later on the palace roof, knees pulled to her chest, staring at the desert night. "You survived," Amira said gently, sitting beside her. "That's not the same as winning." "No, but it's something." Isadora wiped her eyes. "Why did he do that? Break protocol for me?" Amira smiled sadly. "Because you're the only person in this palace who treated him like a human being instead of a transaction. That's rare, dangerously rare." Below them, the palace glittered like a constellation fallen to earth. Isadora thought about Luke and Marina, about the certification she still needed. about how quickly dignity could be stripped away. "I should go home," she whispered. "You should stay." Malik's voice answered from behind them. Both women startled. He stepped onto the roof, still wearing his formal robes, looking exhausted in a way that had nothing to do with sleep. "I cleared the roof for privacy," he said to Amira, who nodded and left without argument. Malik approached slowly, as if Isadora might bolt. "I owe you an apology. You defended me. After you were humiliated, the apology stands." He sat down, careful to maintain respectful distance. "This place is brutal to outsiders. I should have warned you. Would it have changed anything? No, but you deserved honesty." They sat in silence for a long moment, the desert wind carrying jasmine and distant music. "Can I ask you something?" Isadora finally spoke. "Why did you really create this program?" Malik exhaled slowly. "Because I'm trapped in my own palace. Every person I meet wants something, an alliance, a favor, a piece of power. But you just wanted to learn how to save lives. That's not strategic. It's human. You're human too." He laughed bitterly. "Am I? Some days I wonder." Isadora turned to study his profile. In the moonlight, he looked younger, tired, the weight of a country pressing down on shoulders not built for lonely burdens. "My mother died because we couldn't afford the right hospital," she said quietly. "I spent 3 hours on a waiting room chair while she bled internally. By the time they took her seriously, it was too late. So yeah, wanting to save lives isn't strategic. It's the only thing that makes sense." Malik's eyes closed. "I'm sorry." "Don't be. Just don't waste what you have. You have power, resources. You could actually change things. What if I told you I don't know how?" The vulnerability in his voice shocked her. This was the man who commanded nations, who shattered protocol to defend her, who walked through halls like gravity bent around him. "Then figure it out," she said. "You're smart enough." He smiled at that. Really smiled. "You're not afraid of me at all, are you?" "Should I be?" "Most people are. Most people are idiots." Malik laughed, that real unguarded sound that had startled the hall days ago. "Stay," he said suddenly. "Complete the program, and after, stay longer. Help me build something real. A medical training initiative for women from everywhere. Not alliance seeking, just actual education." Isadora's heart hammered. "Why me?" "Because you see me, not the crown. Me." The weight of his words settled between them like sand redistributing after wind. "I'll stay," she whispered. "But not for you. For what we could build." "That's fair." The fire started during afternoon prayers. The palace school, tucked in the east wing, held 53 children from staff families. Isadora was reviewing her certification notes when the alarm screamed through marble halls. She ran. Others evacuated calmly, protocol drilled into muscle memory. But Isadora's instincts screamed wrong. She knew that particular quality of panic, the kind that meant someone was still inside. Smoke billowed from the classroom wing. Staff shouted conflicting orders. Fire crews were minutes away. Isadora grabbed a wet cloth from a kitchen, pressed it to her face, and entered the burning building. "Stop! You'll die!" Someone grabbed her arm. She ripped free. "There are children in there." Inside was hell. Smoke thick enough to choke thought. Heat that seared her lungs. She dropped low, following the desperate sound of crying. 5 children huddled beneath desks in the far corner, paralyzed by terror. The youngest couldn't have been more than 4. "Listen to me," Isadora commanded, voice steady despite her racing heart. "We're leaving. Now. Hold hands. Don't let go." She wrapped the smallest child in wet fabric, positioned the others in a chain, and led them through memory and prayer toward the exit. Fire licked walls. Ceiling beams groaned. Her eyes burned, her lungs screamed. But she counted heads. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all present. They burst into sunlight and gasping breath just as the roof collapsed behind them. Isadora fell to her knees, the children clinging to her, coughing and crying and alive. Malik reached her first, pulling her into his arms with zero regard for public decorum. "You could have died," he said, voice raw. She couldn't answer. Everything hurt. The children were rushed to medical. Isadora was examined, treated for smoke inhalation, and declared stable. By evening, the news had spread throughout Al-Qadim. The American woman saved 5 children. The hero with taped glasses. Malik visited her room after midnight. She sat up when he entered, still smelling of smoke despite 3 showers. "They're calling you a hero," he said. "I did what anyone would do." "No. You did what no one else did." He crossed the room, knelt beside her bed. "You terrify me." "Good." The Council of Elders convened 3 days later with an ultimatum. Malik was informed behind closed doors. Announce a marriage within 72 hours or face formal challenge to his authority. The fire had made Isadora a national symbol. The people loved her. If the sheikh showed favoritism without formal commitment, it would be seen as Western corruption of traditional values. "So I'm a political threat now," Isadora said flatly when Malik explained. They stood in the desert garden where they'd first shared honesty. "You're more than that." "Don't." She held up a hand. "Don't make this romantic. We both know what this is." Malik's jaw tightened. "Do we?" "Yes. I'm convenient. I make you look good. I'm the humble girl who proved herself. Great story. But I didn't come here to be anyone's political solution." "Then why did you stay?" The question hung between them like a blade. "Because I'm an idiot who thought maybe someone like you could actually see someone like me." Isadora's voice cracked. "But I'm not a princess. I'm the help. I've always been the help. Saving kids doesn't change that." "You're wrong." "Am I? Then tell me, what happens when I stop being useful? When the story gets old? When you need a real alliance with someone who speaks 3 languages and knows which fork to use?" Malik grabbed her shoulders, forcing her to look at him. "I love you." The words detonated all the air from the garden. "Don't," she whispered. "I love you," he repeated, desperate. "Not the story. Not the symbol. You. The woman who called me an idiot when I needed to hear it. Who ran into fire. Who ties knots until her fingers bleed because she refuses to be unprepared. I love you so much it's destroying every careful wall I built." Tears streamed down Isadora's face. "You can't." "I already do. It won't work. Your people will never accept. My people already love you. It's you who won't accept yourself." The truth of it shattered something in her chest. That night, Lauren Vale appeared in Al-Qadim. She arrived with an entourage, designer luggage, and a carefully constructed story about how she'd mentored Isadora, investing in her journey. Photographers documented her arrival. She gave interviews about recognizing potential in unlikely places. "You're taking credit for my life." Isadora confronted her in the palace lobby, voice low and furious. Lauren smiled, that familiar, cruel smile. "Prove I didn't help you. After all, I did send you here." "As a joke." "That's your word against mine, darling. And I have receipts. Contracts showing financial investment in your development." Lauren leaned closer. "Play along and I'll make you look good. Fight me and I'll destroy you with the truth. That you're exactly what you've always been. A charity case who got lucky." Isadora's hands shook. Around them, palace staff pretended not to listen. "I want $20 million, Lauren added casually. "Call it a brokerage fee for making you famous." The number was obscene, impossible, designed to trap. "And if I refuse?" "Then everyone learns you're a thief who manipulated a vulnerable man for money." "I have lawyers. Resources. What do you have?" Isadora opened her mouth to respond when Malik's voice cut through the hall like steel. "She has me." He descended the stairs with royal fury barely contained, guards flanking him. "And you, Ms. Vale, are about to learn what happens when you threaten someone under my protection." Lauren's confidence flickered. "Your Highness, I'm simply attempting extortion. In my palace, on recorded channels." Malik gestured to the ceiling cameras. "My security team has compiled quite an interesting file. Your communications with Isadora, proving the initial invitation was indeed mockery. Your financial record showing 0 investment in her welfare. And most damningly, your recent coordination with dismissed candidate Victoria regarding the planted bracelet." Lauren's face went white. "You have 2 choices," Malik continued, voice cold enough to frost marble. "Leave Al-Qadim immediately and quietly, or face criminal prosecution. Choose now." Lauren chose self-preservation. She was gone within the hour. Isadora found Malik on the palace roof at sunrise. He stood facing the desert, hands clasped behind his back. looking every inch the ruler he was born to be. She approached slowly, bare feet silent on warm stone. "You didn't have to do that," she said. "Yes, I did. She tried to own you. No one gets to do that." Isadora moved to stand beside him, watching pink light paint the dunes gold. "The council's deadline is tonight." "I know. So what do we do?" Malik turned to face her fully. "We choose, not because we're forced, not because it's politically convenient, but because we want to. You really want to marry the housekeeper? I want to marry the woman who terrifies and inspires me in equal measure. The one who sees past every title to the person underneath. The one who makes me want to be better than I am." He pulled a small box from his pocket. Inside sat a ring, simple silver, no diamonds, engraved with coordinates. "What are the numbers?" Isadora asked. "Where you saved those children. Where you taught me that courage isn't about crowns." Malik took her hand. "Marry me. Not for politics. Not because you have to. But because we could build something extraordinary together." Isadora looked at the ring, at his face, at the desert stretching endlessly beyond palace walls. She thought about her mother, about Luke and Marina, about every moment she'd been told she wasn't enough. "Yes," she whispered, "but I have conditions." Malik smiled. "Name them." "I finish nursing school. I create a scholarship program for women from backgrounds like mine, both here and in the States. I don't become decoration. I work. Done. Anything else? You stop pretending you don't need people. We build this together. Equal partners. That's all I've wanted." The wedding took place under open sky and shifting sands, attended by saved children, reformed staff, and 2 siblings who flew from Houston with tears streaming down their faces. No excessive gold, no political peacocking, just 2 people choosing each other against every odd. Luke started radiology school. Marina ran the palace's new community library. Amira became director of medical integration. And Isadora, licensed practical nurse and unexpected princess, transformed the palace hospital into something revolutionary, a place where background mattered less than skill, where dignity was standard protocol. 6 months later, she stood in a Houston community clinic, cutting the ribbon on the Lewis Medical Library. Malik stood beside her, holding their newborn daughter. The children she'd saved played in the courtyard. Cameras documented not a fairy tale, but something rarer, real change. Because Isadora Lewis had never needed rescue. She'd needed recognition. The desert had simply been wise enough to provide it.